What is the meaning of life? That was all. A simple question, one that tended to close in on one with years. The great revelation had never come. The great revelation perhaps never did come. Instead, there were little daily miracles, illuminations, matches struck unexpectedly in the dark. Here was one, Virginia Woolf, to the lighthouse. It's not a present-day perspective either. Schopenhauer wrote that love comes entirely from a sexual drive. Tekun paused to take a sip of his drink. And I know it doesn't make sense, someone like me caring about what those dead men said. It's weirdly heterosexual, all of it. But I was dragged because of music, how he believed in music as the purest form of art. He smiled lightly after that, wondering where he stood between passionate and pretentious. Schopenhauer said that music surpasses even the world of perception itself. The man in front of Tekun was fiddling with his cufflinks, not really aware that he should say something, keep the conversation going. "I'm sorry," Tekun said. Sure he didn't mean it. I might have lost the train of thought. I asked if you usually went out with fans like me. The man was confused, but wouldn't hesitate in bringing it up again. Tekun giggled then, trying to recollect all that he intended to say, repeating himself a little. Yes, just remembered. He was enthusiastic again. Then I asked what theory about love feels more relatable to you, and you didn't answer me, only said something about how the current society made you utterly sexual, which brings it up again. I don't think it can be all society's fault. In Buddhism, Leo, the man interrupted him with a frown. I'd like to excuse myself a little. I'll go to the restroom and then we can keep talking. Before he finished speaking, Tekun had already nodded and opened the menu to take a look. Truth is, he didn't really try dating fans, but the man was attractive and even traveled to Japan to see more of his concerts. Their similar tastes seemed interesting. Ordering another drink seemed like a good decision, so Tekun tried to look for his assigned waiter. It took him a while, but then he noticed the guy was already coming. Hello, sir. I'm terribly sorry to interrupt you, but one of our bartenders is calling you at the bar. It's something I couldn't deliver myself. The waiter finished, looking a little afraid, as if delivering the worst news. It's the tall one. Thank you, Tekun answered. I'll talk to him. He wasn't sure he would. He was tipsy. His date was having restroom problems, and the bartender was probably a fan or someone interested. Maybe both. In the end, he went because his waiter disappeared and he never got his refill. It'll be quick, he told himself. Grabbing his check card, Tekun walked towards the bar. Getting up and walking made him very aware of the fact that maybe he was trying to use alcohol to drown some of his misery, having never liked to drink much on the first dates. Although, thinking about it, he deserved to feel less worried for one night. His best friend and manager, Hukyun, had told him about a future European tour, and Tekun just decided he had to do something different, not go home and argue at the piano, hence the date, with his fan. He looked at those working at the bar and asked himself, what was I looking for again? A guy with chubby cheeks and a face tattoo. Is it real? Looked Tekun in the eyes and proceeded to poke another bartender so he could notice the guest. The man promptly turned and gave Tekun a tiny smile, barely showing teeth, approaching him. You are Tekun, right? And he was serious. Was he even a fan? Tekun got a bit uneasy, expecting another start. Yes, me, he said before losing any rational contemplation. Tekun's clumsiness clearly amused the other man, that now tightened his lips in order not to smile. So, Tekun, he continued, getting serious again. A man a little taller than me told me to give you this, and that he expected it could cover his expenses, and then gave Tekun some cash attached together with a paperclip. That confused Tekun. Why would a guy give me money, was his first thought, but he quickly made sense of it. The bartender didn't notice Tekun's realization, though, so he kept going. He looked a little older, well-dressed. Did he say anything else? Tekun asked out of curiosity, not exactly happy, but not too hurt either. Do you really want to know? Well, now I do. Sure. He muttered something about regretting not trying a dating app, the man told him, trying to be careful. He said, well, it doesn't matter what he said, really. Tekun was thankful the bartender never finished. He understands the rejection. He understands being too much, but what he doesn't get is how someone who knew his music, called himself a fan, would assume he would be an easy lay in just that. As the bartender noticed Tekun's small introspection, he excused himself silently to do something his colleague requested. It didn't take him long to come back, though, asking Tycoon if everything was fine. Tycoon deeply hopes he doesn't look as miserable as the guy made him out to be. "What should I call you, messenger?" Tycoon said, with a voice a little bit louder than usual. "I'm Tycoon, left at the altar, as you already know." His bartender then laughed, for real, looking down and pressing his eyelids together. "My name is Wanshik." "Then, Wanshik," Tycoon couldn't help but give the man a self-deprecating smile. "If you give me a drink good enough to help me forget this night, this is your tip." He then put his hand down over the money Wanshik himself had handed to him. Wanshik visibly agreed, though not enthusiastically, and started gathering utensils. Teku noticed he didn't measure anything or tried to show off some artistry and eye-catching tricks while he worked on it. In fact, he looked pretty stiff compared to his co-workers, not doing anything too extra, except for the restrained dancing, if it could be called that, his body moving unconsciously and his lips muttering something along with it. Tekun paused on how that night should have started like that. Him alone at the bar, happily ignoring the possibility of sleeping many hours before his early appointment with someone important, he can't recall whom. The mistake was made. He wasn't offended at how his date had acted. He was asking himself why he kept going through these experiences, being misunderstood, accepting lazy flirting because he felt alone, and being willing to share some of his thoughts with those that didn't really want to hear them. "Tekun," called a deep voice, Wanchik. "I hope you like your cocktail." He then poured from a shaker, sifting the ice and garnishing it with a fruit slice. "It is pretty," Tycoon said, ready to smell it and examine the fruit, its color and shape being really lively. "What is it called?" he asked before taking a sip. I think you can call it left at the altar, then." It's a light joke, and Tycoon appreciated it. His drink tasted nice, something in there barely familiar. It was fruity, but not too sweet, and he appreciated the lack of ice because as a slow drinker, having it watered down was a nightmare. Maybe Wanshik knows exactly what to make for a failed date situation, Tycoon thought, venturing back on how he should stop trying to do normal things, but was interrupted rapidly. "Care to tell me what's on your mind?" Wanshik asked, like he had all the time in the world. Maybe he had. Tekun sighed, didn't think too much before actually exposing what was on his mind. "Do you happen to know the big answer to why we succumb to dating uninteresting people?" Wanshik put down the cup he had in his hands and got closer. Tekun laughed. Was he really going to receive an answer to that? He feared Wanshik would make fun of his date. "I have a theory, actually, if you want to hear it." It looked like it could be a lecture, which made Tekun's eyes lighten up. "Absolutely, yes," he said, holding his face with his hands, eyes showing that he might have been a little tipsy. Manchik tried to hide his own amusement. His nights were usually resumed to being a listener and agreeing to weird things. He quickly started sorting his thoughts to figure out if he was about to be too honest, but looking into Tekun's feline expression, he didn't feel like he had to pretend. "Ever heard of Pavlovian conditioning?" Manchik asked, and kept going when his customer nodded. "So let's begin with the arousal cycle," he said, the word arousal making Tycoon more curious than he had been. "Especially as men, we grow up with a culture that is more than fine with us touching ourselves, and later it's even expected that we get around. Even men that aren't straight, the inner circles expect that from them." "Got you." "I have no idea where you are going," Tycoon told him, "but it's not wrong." One chick looked around to see if he was actually needed, but even their part-timer was looking bored and stealthily eating strawberries. "What I was trying to say is, basically, that an orgasm closes the cycle. We get interested, we do something, we get the release." He said so easily that Tekun expected him to wipe the counter and look ominous. He didn't. He looked absolutely serious and sad, even. "So when someone hits on us, or we get in simple infatuation, it's basically closing the cycle on our minds." "You mean we relate the possibility of cheap intimacy with the full effect of an orgasm?" Tekun asked, mostly to take in the information, and Wanchik felt dumb for being unable to put it all easily like that. "That's the conditioning," Wanchik said, as if they had come to an agreement. "But what if we aren't minimally attracted to another person?" "It could still stand," was Wanchik's worried answer, "but it can be easier than that." "Enlighten me, then, sir." Tekun spoke with not only shining eyes, but a smile. He made a point to look sarcastic when saying, "Sir." Wanchik let out a sort of sigh. It's loneliness, he spoke. His face looked a little uneasy, and Tekun noticed the way his lips pressed together, waiting for a reaction. The lack of balance can be maddening. Tekun agreed, nodding, but looking down for a moment. What do you know of loneliness, though? A sip from his drink, eyes on Wanshik's mildly furrowed brows. You must meet so many people here. As soon as he spoke, he realized it wasn't the smartest thing to say, especially when seeing his phone screen lighten up with a picture of someone that would judge him. But his body felt weird, and the bar stool a hazard, so his tipsiness quickly erased any need to clarify that. Wanshik scoffed with a coy smile, fidgeting with the buttons of his uniform. I'm not sure, he said as his smile faded. I figured it's like celebrities. And as he spoke, Tekun felt a sudden wave of sobriety. It was hastily followed by a mild paranoia that Wanshik was playing dumb with him, which got him sure he wasn't sober at all. You know, they have so many fans, but in the end, the fans don't mean anything in terms of intimacy, Wanshik explained. His words stung Tekun, not because they were harsh, but because they weren't. Tekun wanted to share, tell him how true it was, how much it hurt to have everyone and have no one. He decided it wasn't worth it to ruin this, have Wanshik looking up his name and lose the opportunity to talk about his life himself. For that, he let his dazed mind talk. Are you saying I don't mean anything for you? He said, taking a gulp from his drink because he realized that was very flirty and desperate. What the fuck, Tekun? Wanshik laughed again, and Tekun muses he wouldn't mind hearing that constantly. He was sure he had to leave and end his night before something bad happened. His phone lightened up again. Your internal monologue seems complicated, was Wanshik's answer. Please tell me the drink isn't about to knock you out. Oh, I'm fine. Tekun started to tell Wanshik, but as soon as his phone showed him, one more time, a very creepy smile that said, I'm going to hug you until you melt and stop making jokes about stealing babies. He picked up the phone and silently apologized to the bartender. Wanshik saw an opportunity to try scolding the new waiter for being so smiley. He seemed high. A lost cause, really, because the clients all loved him, and Wanshik couldn't even be serious around the guy. He looked like a cute puppy looking for attention. Wanshik heard bits of the phone call. I'm not home, told his caller. Yes, but he laughed. He didn't sound bothered at all. Because I'm lonely, Jan. I'm old and I'm lonely. Tekun kept talking, and Wanshik figured that Tekun's disappointed tone, but it faded as he laughed scandalously. Believe what you want, old man. We are certainly lonely, though. Wanshik got surprised at how that smooth, soft voice wasn't because he was a stranger and Tekun was shy. No, that was just Tekun. So different from the rude man that handed him money. You are always a recipient of my Uber rides, was the last thing Wanshik heard clearly. Is it still loneliness if it's shared? He thought. How old are you? He wanted to ask. Being lonely isn't the end, he wanted to say. Tekun typed on his phone's notepad, slowly and frustrated. Wanshik tried to hide a smile, as that was such a relatable position. Are you throwing me out? He looked up and asked as Wanshik got closed, which earned him a laugh. I can't do that, sir, Wanshik replied, silently asking to clean up the counter. Tekun didn't let him take the cup without quickly taking the bright fruit garnished eat, ending up with a scrunched face and a shiver. At least it's pretty, he told Wanshik, who quickly fixed him a cup of water. It's not for everyone, the starfruit, Wanshik added. I like it a lot, especially paired with other things. Not a loner, then. Not a loner. It was a night off for Tekun, but Wanshik wasn't there. Tekun considers what he should say, the way to have his answers that wouldn't bother the working man. Where's your coworker Wanshik? No. Would you talk to me like he does? Too forward. Is your smile as shy as his? It wasn't. He had just seen it. The new guy smiled like he was having the time of his life, every time. Tekun had no useful thoughts, but spoke anyway. Hey, he called to the barman. What's your working schedules? Like days and time? Were he in a rational state, he would have promptly regretted it. But this time he thought it was pretty articulate. Were he a little less blinded by that pursuit, Wanshik's, he would have seen the barman cringing before trying to be polite. I'm very flattered, but I'm afraid that it changes every 2 weeks or so. I can't guarantee much. Were he able to deal with any frustration, he wouldn't have ended up squealing with his face against the bar counter, feeling disappointed and foolish. Sorry I'm late, Wanshik said, getting behind the counter. You wouldn't believe it, Bin. My dog chewed on my clean tie. You are actually not very late, and that's a poor excuse. was the sincerity his colleague, Hongbin, could offer. Please don't ever tell little boss something like that. Own your mistakes. Like telling him video games made me late? He deadpanned, making Hongbin smile. And he's not little, Wanshik argued. I'm relatable, and now he plays with me, Hongbin told him. Also, he's a baby. He is, he gave in. A big one. Hongbin never thought Wanshik would end up liking the job. He also never thought Wanshik would be able to keep the job, seeing how even their eventual part-timers could do all the tricks Wanshik never got the hang of. However, Wanshik was hardworking, extremely charming, and, as if he waited all his life for a job like that, didn't mind staying up late. Little Boss was younger than most of them, born into wealth but forever humble, coy even. He liked Wanshik from the start, said that he admired his reliability. Even if not always there, Sanhyuk made a point to assist all job interviews and approve all of the food. That is why, precisely, Wanshik now trusted the man more clumsy than himself, the new waiter. After changing to his uniform, Wanshik inhaled air as if preparing and got behind the counter. It was usually a busy day of the week, if not the most, but working with Hongbin always got him in a good mood. I'm so glad we got the same shift, he confesses, even if avoiding eye contact. I live 2 blocks away from you. You can visit, Hongbin told him with a smile. By the way, about our shift, earlier this week, an extremely weird guy came here and demanded to know my shift. You have to tell these guys off, Bin, even if they buy stuff, he said, while smelling the ice machine for any malfunction signal. But you see, he wasn't interested in me, Hongbin argued, making Wanshik roll his eyes. I mean, he didn't look threatening and ended up sulking alone with his phone. Wanshik wondered if Hongbin could be dumb and not realize he's usually the most handsome man around. Stop trying to take care of me. He was harmless and sort of sweet, insisted Hongbin as he noticed Wanshik's furrowed brows. He even asked for a drink with that fruit you like, though he didn't know its name. Eyes wide, fluttering chest. Why am I like this? He thought, while Hongbin failed to notice the change of expression. Do you remember how was he called? Wanshik asked, just to be sure. No, Hongbin answered, a little confused. Woo-sung was talking to him about the waiter, though. He remembered, then waved his hand to call the waiter, who smiled at the attention. Everything all right? The waiter asked, a little unfocused, looking around to check his empty tables. Wanshik got lost in the banter until he heard his name. Sorry, what was it about me? I told Benny you probably have Leo's number. Who's Leo? He asked sincerely. Hongbin would joke about Wanshik being only functional for work, but a laugh from the waiter interrupted him. I don't have my phone on me. Do any of you? He asked. I need to show you something. Taekun returned a week or so later. A really slow day at the restaurant, but not exactly the same for him. This place is basically just people that think music died in the 70s, he told Huckyin earlier. I went there and no fuss happened at all. You know people here are polite. Is it another date? Huckyin raised his eyebrows. Would I be inviting you to go along? He answered with sudden regret. Wouldn't be the first time. Huckyin said, resuming work with dates and numbers that Taekun could swear would forever be a blur. So he went alone, despite his best friend's concerned looks. Due to the restaurant's crowded state, Taekun wasn't able to talk to anyone more than necessary to get his colorful juice. He observed Wanshik, who stared back a couple of times, smiling. Taekun thought for a while that he was just interested in being listened to or comforted, but as their silent looks kept happening, he just accepted how it felt to just be around. Their dialogues weren't very linear. Wanshik told them they had very different backgrounds, careful not to mention he knew about Taekun's life, and Taekun himself insisted on how they were probably from different generations, claiming it was useless for Wanshik to even try and understand him. Wanshik found it offensive, only to minutes later forget all about it. Your hair is kind of on your face today, Taekun said when they were finally close enough to talk normally. He wasn't lying. It was noticeable how the tidy haircut was morphing into a very rebel look. Yours is a mess. Wanshik got back at him, then added playfully, Sir. Sometimes a month went by without Taekun. He never explained much, but Wanshik knew his life was going at a different pace. That never stopped Wanshik from reading him, though. Come on, why the long face? Wanshik asked Taekun, who couldn't hide behind the drink Hongbin gave him. Your face is way longer than mine, he answered, trying not to smile. Wanshik stared like Taekun had made the worst dad joke at a family dinner. So Taekwon didn't go further, spilling instead. Do your kinds treat you badly sometimes? All the time, to be honest, Wonchik said, not even thinking much. Do they look at you weirdly, like they have the right to? Yes, Taekwon replied, sighing. I'm just I'm tired of thinking I'm admired for what I do and then he looked down, and then being basically assaulted. Wonchik didn't fret when reaching softly, having a couple of his fingers over Taekwon's resting hand. Taekwon observed, the closest he ever had, the ink around Wonchik's wrist. I'm sorry that happens to you, Wonchik said, looking at his own cheap rings next to Taekwon's intricate ones. He brought his hand back to himself. Don't let them make you think there aren't people who like your work. I'm sure you're great at it. You can't be sure, Taekwon told him, feeling guilty for his bitterness. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. It's fine to doubt yourself. Taekwon's expression got a little lighter. But believe me, I'm a bartender. I'm usually right, Wonchik said with a cocky smile. I'll get you a latte, all right? None of the bartenders had seen Taekwon for almost 2 months before the day he arrived a little late and found a seat at the very corner of the counter. It would be his typical fashion if it weren't for a purse seemingly empty and the new hair colorable and new noticeable fainter eyebrows. They had already closed and were waiting for the last clients to go home, but Jae-hwan, the waiter, was very fond of Taekwon and had problems acting minimally tough to send someone away. Wonchuk blinked a little before realizing it was indeed Taekwon, very tired and very, very blond. He had no accessories on. His face makeup was the only thing indicating he had actually meant to go out. Hongbin approached Taekwon, whose eyes reacted to the deep, soothing voice in just too predictable a way. Do you want something, then? He asked. This is my corner today, and smiled. Taekwon felt less tense. Hongbin had a nice energy around him, always, even if his smiles felt directed to the world and never to Taekwon himself. But he'll get here, he told Taekwon, who didn't even notice the subtle winking. It didn't take more than 10 minutes for Wonchik to get a breach, but it felt like a long time as he found Taekwon to just be a mop of hair resting on crossed arms, asleep, at the counter. He couldn't help being worried, but as voices were discussing things like, he asked me to lay him on the floor if he slept, and that's not funny at all, he laughed a little. Wonchik carefully approached Taekwon and only touched the counter next to him, and that was enough to wake him up. I'm so sorry, was the first thing he said, a little embarrassed. It's all right, Wonchik quickly affirmed. Taekwon still looks unsure, so he says, you'll have to do a lot more before being rightfully sorry. They smile, aware that Hongbin was at the exact moment trying to be civil with a woman speaking louder than suitable. Taekwon remembered how easy it was to be there. He didn't have to worry about being too sad, too unsure, not about being too excited or too sure. If he ended up arguing, there was no need to commit to a mistake, so he apologized. As they talked, he didn't want it to end. He felt light. Wonchuk didn't buy it, though. Taekwon was always too vague, but never avoiding, so Wonchuk could see something was off. Why did you come in so late? He questioned as soon as the actual client left. It took long for Taekwon to come up with an answer. Sir. And like that, they were laughing. I can't stand my own home, Taekwon confessed, as if it were the weather. Where will you go now? I don't know, he answered, gesticulating to look less miserable, a lesson learned from his best friend. I don't want to go to places that are either insanitary or coldly sterilized. He sighed. And I can't tell my best friend any of that, because he worries too much. Shouldn't he? No, he said simply. I'm just tired of the noises around my apartment, tired of my furniture, tired of my own perfume lingering everywhere, and I haven't even been using it. Wonchik could relate, so he didn't argue. His creativity easily got clouded when he was just stuck home. We need to close the bar. Should we help you and drop you somewhere? He offered Taekwon, whose sleepy expression got a little softer. Wonchik didn't talk about anything too deep. Figured Taekwon couldn't understand much even if he wanted to. The tiredness seemed overwhelming. The team was mostly done by the time Wonchik stopped chatting and figured he would go home in his uniform to wash it. Come on, then. Insia will firstly drop off our baby, Woo-seung, because it's too late and his parents will— Shut the fuck up, retaliated Woo-seung, not too serious but still making a point, claiming the front seat. He's feisty, Hongbin tells Taekwon as they all enter the car. The car had barely passed a few blocks before Tekun, resting his head on the door window, fell asleep again. Take him home with you. Let him sulk somewhere that he's used to sulking, Hongbin said to Wanchik, careful not to be loud. I can't do that, he replied, waiting for his other co-workers to back him up. They didn't, just hummed some underground hip-hop song. He's completely sober, just asleep, Hongbin insisted. Come on, you guys are friends. Wanchik looked at him, then at Tekun, and sighed. He carefully touched Tekun's shoulder to wake him up. Do you want to spend the night at my place? Wanchik prompted. We're about the same height. You could borrow something comfortable. As they went up the stairs, Wanchik wondered when it would be a good time to say something. It wasn't Hongbin with takeout, going for a meal and a drink. It wasn't his sister about to make his dog crazy. It was Tekun, left at the altar, secretly famous, always beautiful Tekun. Thank you, he spoke before Wanchik, soft and sincere. Wanchik couldn't really process an answer because they were already reaching for his door, and he had something else to say. You're about to find out I'm really messy. Oh, don't worry, Tekun said, serious but fond. That has always been clear. Wanchik smiled, looking down, to himself only. Tekun couldn't see him as he faced the door. The sudden barking startled his guest. I had forgotten you had a dog. It was unavoidable to laugh at how excited the dog was, even with the unknown guest. Before Tekun could even pet him, he started nibbling on Tekun's ankles. I'll put your shoes up here so he can't reach it, Wanchik said, carefully looking at the intricate dress shoe, something he couldn't pay attention to behind his counter. You must be real tired still. If you want a change of clothes, I have spare unused underwear. Tekun hummed while looking around a little, underestimated the mess. He almost gasped when seeing some really amateur studio setup, but got interrupted by Wanchik bringing him clothes. How do you have so much spare underwear? Do all your clients end up here? Wanchik got embarrassed for a second before noticing Tekun wasn't making fun of him. No, he answered. These were gifts, and I don't like briefs very much. Tekun hummed again, with a tiny smile. He'd say, good, I can't wear anything else, but chose to only show his quiet gratitude. He showered as if the water could clean all it couldn't even reach, erase all the touches he never cherished, let failures down the drain. He wondered if running away like that would change something, spark his mind, if he would look at his piano and not sigh. After that, he refused taking Wanchik's bed, said he was so tired anything would be perfect. Much insisting, and he settled for a spare mattress sort of cramped in Wanchik's living room. He wanted to stay up and talk, wanted to ask about all the weird things around, but the tiredness overwhelmed him in a way even his speech felt dragged. Wanchik found him asleep as he left the shower and went to say good night, unable to look away as the messy blonde hair fell into Tekun's face, now bare and a little flushed. There was a small mole under his eye. Wanchik observed for a bit, wondering how such soft features still made him feel a little weak. He set up a little fence for his dog, whispered, "But be civil." Tekun woke up early and not by choice, but with a phone call that he rejected. He felt a small ache around his shoulders, hugged himself a little just to take in how that place felt, how those clothes smelled. Wanchik got up not much after, asked him if he wanted coffee. Tekun said yes, ignoring yet again a phone call. His host was wearing a t-shirt and sweatpants, and Tekun noticed way more tattoos than the one he could always see peeking from the sleeves. Tekun got curious about what could be the etiquette. He wanted to know details, talk, get to know that part of Wanchik, the thick and the thin lines. It was compelling. He wanted more of that world. His phone rang. I'm going to take this real fast, he told Wanchik, who stood there, wondering. What did I get myself into? Wanchik watched his guest on the phone, barefoot, nervously walking in circles, unkempt hair looking funny. He asked himself if it was weird to be attracted to someone that trusted him like Tekun did. Why Tekun never mentioned music at all and hated how it made everything more interesting. Should I tell him I know? I should get dressed, Tekun told him as soon as he finished his call. Please, be comfortable, he answered, instead of screaming, which he did only in his mind. I'll still drink coffee with you, Tekun spoke, a little louder on his way to the bathroom. Wanchik smiled, more fond of that voice than ever. He felt stupid, so boyish, back at having no idea how to voice his feelings and searching for the romantic confidence he never had. He wrote about a scar turning a cheek unique, about eyes as attractive as music, a voice soft but so powerful. It made him blush how he could write all of that and never say anything. The fact that he couldn't stop himself from seeing his friend as witty, sweet, tempting. Wanchik was on autopilot while he went to help Tekun out of the building, sure he'd say something stupid once or twice. But Tekun noticed, right before leaving. Wanchik, he almost whispered, but was heard, as Wanchik looked directly to him. I think we should go on a date. Eyes on his phone and compulsively twisting a ring, Tekun didn't notice his date arriving. Getting up, he felt himself licking his lips to postpone any greeting, to let Wanchik speak first. As Wanchik did, but not before gently bowing. Hey, he said when Tekun returned the silent greeting, a small piece of his teeth visible through a smile. Wanchik asked himself one more time how such a timid smile could make him blush more than any obscene talk or gesture. It's like he's borrowing his soul, he told Hakyan once, who didn't fail to just tell Tekun he was too smitten. That's it, Tekun said, grabbing Wanchik's hand and pulling him towards the table. I put a chair by my side so you could see the quartet play. Wanchik was sure one of his limbs would give up before he even got to the chair. So that's why I don't date, he thought, softly shaking his head to get rid of it. If you want to, of course, Tekun added. I don't mind just looking, not looking at them. I want to, Wanchik answered, sitting down. They weren't extremely close, but closer than Wanchik expected. Have you read Anne Sexton's poem, Wanting to Die? Tekun blurted while Wanchik made himself comfortable. I don't think so, Wanchik answered, glad things were as weird as they had ever been. Do you read a lot of poetry? Not much, no, he told Tekun before remembering it was fine to talk about himself. But I write it, sort of. What do you mean, sort of? Tekun asked, face lit up. Is it music? You write music? I do. I'm here hoping you also sing. Is that weird? Here interrupted Wanchik. I think a lot about your voice. Still, sort of? Wanchik answered, not knowing how Tekun could just say such things. And thank you. I hope you know your voice is quite unique. The way you talk and sing, he'd say. You write songs and sing them, but only sort of? It's rap, Wanchik confessed. It's what I write, mostly, and do. Oh, Tekun took some time to process. I don't think I know much about rapping. Wouldn't expect you to. I mean, you don't look like the type, he explained. I have a friend with a soothing voice like yours. But yeah, that's about it for similarities. I could rap, Tekun stated, making Wanchik smile with his entire face. Confident, I like it. But you probably could, yes. You must know your breathing and limits very well. Tekun blinked a couple of times, noticing how Wanchik stuttered. Do you know? He asked, trying to hide his unreasonable shame. How long? I feel stupid. He did feel stupid, but it didn't stop him from feeling lighter, more of himself. You're not your artist persona or its public image, Wanchik said when he was sure they could look eye on eye. Your music made me feel closer to you, though. Like that, he no longer felt stupid, not for hiding, just for the way he knew his eyes were revealing all about his feelings, his curiosity. Do you like it, the songwriting, the performances? It's something. I mean, I really do. I get a little sad if I think about some of the lyrics, and others, well, they are... He started answering before a waitress interrupted them to check if they wanted something. Wanchik ordered a drink, and Tekun was unsure about his. Could you tell the waitress about the cocktail you made me when we first met? I've been meaning to drink it again, he said, excited. It's a famous drink. I just changed something to make it more you, Wanchik replied. Both of them looked at him. It's called Angel Face. I just changed the fruit to suit you better. As soon as the waitress left, Tekun laughed loudly, face all red, just like Wanchik's. Wanchik wasn't sure what he could do to hide how exposed he felt. So the drink you made just for me is called Angel Face? Tekun teased. You were flirting with me since day one? I was not, he answered. You weren't supposed to know. You are not allowed to try and poke fun at my horny songs ever again, Tekun told them, still light-hearted, then placed a hand over his. I knew where you were going to get. What was that about Anne Sexton? Wanchik nervously said. Tekun held his hand tighter and smiled. I'm thinking a lot about what love could possibly mean to people, he answered. The poem is, obviously, about the wish for death, and how much is left behind. But the thing is, she ends up talking about love, and I can't stop thinking about it. It's like death is our purpose, and wanting it is a default. It says whatever love we feel is just an infection. It keeps us sick with love. Do you believe that? Wanshik asked. Is that your favorite theory about love? I don't know, Tycoon sighed, going for Wanshik's cheek but kissing his hair as he moved to clean a single dog hair on his shirt. What are you doing? Wanshik asked, a little startled. I don't know, he repeated, now looking down. Infecting you? Wanshik wanted to laugh, but his chest felt heavy, pounding. They slowly looked at each other again and smiled. Tegwin's shame disappeared with that smile. Wanshik got closer, whispered something. Their hands intertwined. No one is looking, Tegwin said back, his usual quiet tone making it mischievous. Wanshik looked around, and then at Tegwin again. He gave in. The chest kiss seemed impossibly slow, but as soon as it ended, it felt like hummingbirds' flutter of wings. You infected me some time ago. Shame disappeared with that smile. Wanshik got closer, whispered something. Their hands intertwined. No one is looking, Tycoon said back, his usual quiet tone making it mischievous. Wanshik looked around, then at Tycoon again. He gave in. The chest kiss seemed impossibly slow, but as soon as it ended, it felt like a hummingbird's flutter of wings. You infected me some time ago.